Hello there, and welcome to the H2O podcast. I'm your host, Zachariah Kotowitz, and I'm here to introduce Jadon Nichols. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. We're going to talk about his story, of course. You know how these things go by now. And we're going to go into a little bit of our personal relationship, and then at the end of it, we're going to hear about his topic, which includes hobbies and how he uses hobbies to glorify Christ. So, Jadon, tell us a little bit about yourself. Bud.
Yeah. I actually grew up in the church. So my dad's a pastor in the Nazarene church. So I've been in the church since I was a little baby. And I would say growing up, like all the way until college, if I was to sum it up, like I believed in God. Like even from being a young kid, like my parents had me memorize like Psalm 23, John 3:16. And I didn't doubt the existence of God. I even had a spiritual experience when my dad was speaking at a teen camp. And I just remember like seeing a bunch of teenagers worshiping the Lord, and I just was real to me. I was only like 6 years old, but I was like, yeah, this is real. God is real. Like I can feel his presence. But my story really takes a turn when I was younger. I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I was molested by a close family friend. And this is where like the tension of like, I really believed in God, but I also understood sin enough to know that like sin's bad. What happened to me was bad, but I couldn't like separate the fact that what had happened to me was done to me and that I wasn't just a part of it. So I really wrestled and thought like I was going to hell for a long time. It was one of those where like I was praying for salvation like on the nightly, because I just was like, I know that was bad and I don't think I could ever be clean enough for the Lord. And that carried on with me like through all of elementary school, junior high, and high school. Just this feeling of like I could never be clean enough for the Lord, but I'm going to try. And so in high school, I probably functioned more like a moralist. So somebody who like just believed like if I'm in like the top 15% of like humanity, like I might get to go to heaven. And so the way that I drew that bar was like, all right, in high school, I'm not going to drink alcohol. I'm not going to do any drugs, and I'm not going to sleep with women.
Yeah.
And that'll put me at least above my friends.
Right.
And so I had a lot of pride in high school of just like thinking I was better than people just because I didn't do certain things. And I tried to be nice. Like I tried to be somebody who was uplifting. I was probably more kind to our lower classmen than some of my friends were. But all of it just had to do with building myself up. Like the more I could build myself up, the better. But what really affected me too was like having dealt with some sexual assault as a kid. That made me deal with anxiety and depression in different ways. Really different seasons where it spiked up more and more. So because of that, like I was searching for anything that would make me not feel that.
Yeah.
So I became addicted to playing basketball, video games at different times, attention. And I oriented my schedule in a way where I was just busy all the time so that I didn't have to think too much. Because if I ever thought too much, it didn't go anywhere good.
Yeah.
So that was most of my story before college. And college is really like my turning point of where things started to change. And really they got worse before they got better. So I came to BGSU, which is, I grew up in Bowling Green, Ohio. So like it was right in my backyard. I didn't know what I wanted to study. That just was like the natural next step after high school. I didn't even think there were other options.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go to school where my older brother was going to school. So I went
Where was that?
With Mount Vernon Nazarene is where where really most of everybody in my mom's side of the family, like I was the first person in our family to not go there. So it was like really weird for everybody. But I did 3 semesters here at BG having no clue what to major in. I just was taking intro classes like kinesiology. I took a film class. Like I took a bunch of different classes. And eventually I realized like, okay, I think I want to work with people. And I knew I wanted to do some sort of counseling. And there was really 2 reasons behind that. I think, one, I needed counseling. And so it was interesting to me. But then 2, like I was always more of a people person. And a lot of my skills came from being able to communicate, listen well. And so, I don't know, it made sense in my brain. But the issue was, that's a master's degree. That is not an undergraduate degree. So I had to decide on an undergrad degree, and I had narrowed it down to 3, which was teaching, psychology, or human development. And as I was talking to one of the grad school coordinators, they were like, if you want to be different, like there's not a whole lot of human development majors that go into this program. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that. So I studied human development, and the Lord actually used that to start showing me and unpacking things about my life, because we really studied like birth to death, like all the age groups and the major things that happen. But I started unpacking my own life as we were doing that, like learning about the developmental tasks that you go through when you're a kid into adolescence and into adulthood. And I started realizing things about myself just through studying that. But then the spiritual component started to come into that too. So as a freshman, I got plugged into H2O because I got a new RA, and his name's Adam Evans. He's still a part of our church today. And it's so rare that you get an RA with like a month left in the school year. But I was living in Centennial Hall, and we got a new RA. He had to meet with all of us just to kind of check in and introduce himself. And we found we had connections, which were, I grew up in church, he grew up in church. I like basketball, he likes basketball. So he invited me to Epler to go play basketball, which is a gym on our campus. And I started meeting people there. And really my freshman year, to be honest with you guys, like it sucked. It wasn't fun. But the last 4 weeks, like when I finally made some friends, like I met Jess there. I met her now husband, Cody, there.
Yeah.
And I was playing ball with Adam and meeting some other people. And like I hadn't made good friends all year. And in the few weeks that I got to know them, like I was like, there's something different about these people, and I really enjoy these people. But then the semester just ended. So like I had made a couple friends like at the end of the semester, and it ended. And I was like so struggling because I didn't know what I wanted to do. Felt like my freshman year was kind of a wash. I had really given myself to like, I'm going to get good grades and maybe that will make me feel good about myself. And it really didn't. So I fell into the party scene. Being here over the summer still, my friends were partying. It just was natural and easy to just fall into as I was still seeking for stuff that was going to make me feel good. So I always tell people like I became a party trick. Like I was the pastor's kid who was pretty straight edge in high school for the most part, who now was open to whatever. Yeah. So I drank for free for a whole summer, was just getting out of my mind, came back to school, and I was really wrestling with this tension of like, okay, I want to get more plugged into church because I really like those people, but I was still partying. So Adam invited me to the Kreischer Life group, which I know you lead.
Yeah, I'm leading that this year. Let's go.
So yeah, this would have been the fall of 2014. I was involved with the Kreischer Life group. I was going there weekly, and then 3 days a week I was partying. So I was going to life group, and I was honest at life group. That was one thing. Like they knew where I was at. Like there was no question of like what I was doing. I wasn't trying to lie about anything. So I'm hearing the gospel week after week, and I'm building these relationships. And it kind of got to a crux like at the end of that school year where it was like, I'm looking at my life and I'm like, okay, I've got 2 pockets of friends. The friends at H2O, like they love me in different ways that nobody else does. They're asking about my life. They're asking about how I feel about things. They're asking me about my family. Like they're just asking me all these deep questions. And I could tell they really cared about me. Yeah. And then I have my friends I party with who we didn't talk about stuff like that. We would party. We would be idiots, and then we'd wake up the next day and do it again. And so the big turning point in my life happened right after, it was the weekend after my sophomore year. Went to one more party. I blacked out at that party, and then I woke up the next day, drove home, and I couldn't get out of my car. Like something's keeping me in my car, and I'm just sitting there, and I just realized like I don't like where my life's at. And I felt like God was calling to me, and it's hard to describe this, but in the most gentle way, he was telling me like, you have been such a fool. But at the same time, he was telling me like, I love you so much, and like I want the best for you. So I want you to follow me. And so if you've ever been like reproved in a way where you still felt loved, that's what I felt like with the Lord. So I committed myself to following Jesus right after that. But I had the same issue of my freshman year is like all my friends just went home for the summer. So I texted Cody and I texted Adam, and I was like, I want to follow Jesus. What should I do? And they both, like Adam lived in Cincinnati, Cody lived in Cleveland, so they both were more than 2 hours away. They just encouraged me to read the Bible, just start reading, and then we'll meet up when we get back to school and we'll start doing discipleship. So I started reading the Proverbs that summer and just trying to apply them to my life. And throughout that time, like I was growing, I was seeing my sin month by month. God was revealing new and new things to me, which was awesome. But that first like 2 years was a learning curve because I had a lot to unpack. Like there was a lot in my life that the Lord needed to prune out. And so as I was growing, I got plugged in at H2O more, started going to Sunday service regularly. And then over time, I eventually became a group leader. And then by the end of my senior year, I realized that the Lord was calling me into ministry. I didn't know what that meant. Like, I just knew that the Lord wanted to use me somehow. And so I was already committed to grad school. So I was going to be here another 2 years. And the cool part about that was I got to serve for another 2 years. I got to try the counseling route. I got to study it. I got to be in it for a year. And then I still got to do ministry. So I was doing both things at the same time. And by the end of it, I realized like the Lord really wants me to not just be in ministry, but to reach college students and to help people that were like me, who are struggling to figure out who they wanted to be, what they wanted to do. And I just love college students. They're great. Like I really wanted to be a high school counselor because I wanted to help students figure out what they wanted to do with their life. But then I realized one day, I was like, hold on, like college students literally pick what they're going to do and can change their major like the next day. Or if they want to follow Jesus, they can do that right there and there. So that's a little bit about my path. I don't know if you want to ask any questions or press in any sections of that, but that's kind of how I got here.
Yeah, well, I just found it really fascinating. The first thing that you mentioned whenever you were like, well, I was interested in counseling and all this psychology stuff because I needed it. I think that's a lot of people don't realize that they go into something that they actually find that they need themselves. So how could you like tell a college student who's figuring out what they want to do with their life and they're like craving something that they don't even know that they're craving?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like you brought that up again too. Like you may have heard the phrase, it's like most people like serve where they lacked in their childhood, or like they might go into a profession where they see a need. I think that's a great place to start is like, when you look at the world, like where's the need? Like that's a good question to ask if you want to work in a field you're passionate about. But then there's also some merit to like, what are you skilled at? Like, what are you really good at? If you can make money doing that, there's probably something there.
Yeah.
Like you probably should do one of those two things. And if they just happen to be something you're both passionate about and skilled at, then you've hit a home run. Yeah. I think that's what I wrestled with is like, I knew I had people skills, but like I never thought in high school that there's anything that could translate to a job there besides maybe teaching. So that was like my skills, but then my passions were really for helping people. So I never saw a pathway for that till I got to college. So yeah, what is the needs you see and what skills do you have? That's really how you figure out like, what do I maybe want to do? And just try something. Like I just went ahead and tried what I wanted to do with counseling and then realized like, oh, this is not it, but it helped me get to the next step. I think so many people get wrapped up in like, I got to have the perfect job, the perfect plan. And statistics show like you work multiple jobs in your 20s before you really land on something you're good at. So I was glad I was aware of that. Like going into college, like I knew I was going to be throwing some darts at the wall and they may not stick. So that's what I would say about how to help you figure out what do you want to do with your life.
Yeah. And how did that apply into your relationship with Madison?
Yeah. So I also met my wife in college. So my senior year, I did what many people would think is crazy, and I broke up with a girl that I'd been dating for a long time. So like going into my senior year, I was single, which is terrifying because I'd always pictured in my head, finish college, get married, start a job, you know, the classic.
Right.
But I ended up meeting Madison that fall. She was on the worship team. So she was singing one Sunday. And just like, as the Lord was like teaching me, one of the things that he challenged me with that fall was that I needed to be more encouraging. Like I needed to, when I saw the Lord moving in people, I needed to step out and share that with people. I felt like I was withholding love, and the scriptures tell us not to do that. So anyway, like long story short, like Madison was leading worship the one day. I was like, wow, she's really talented. Like she's good. So I was like, I should probably tell her. I don't even know who that girl is. So I went up to her after service. Like I introduced myself and was like, I just want to let you know, like your leading worship was like really fantastic today. And so that's where we met. And it wasn't like a love at first sight thing or anything like that, to be honest with you. Like we ended up getting to know each other a little bit more that year. I served on the events team and she did too. And we put on an event together called the H2O Luau. So we did a little, it was a dance party. But it was
a dance party, gotcha, yeah.
But it was also a fundraiser for the Daughter Project. So we raised a lot of money by doing that together. And we got to know each other a little bit more by doing that event together. But it was the spring semester when we came back from break where I ran into her in the union. It was like maybe the first or second day in class. And I texted Cody and I was like, when did Maddie Hadid get really attractive? And he literally texted me back, chill. And I was like, okay, I'll chill. But then where it really took off was I decided I was going to go on a mission trip to Beach Reach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was helping Joe Gallagher, who's a pastor at H2O, you know.
Yeah.
I was helping him put that together, and I was looking at the interest list, and her name was on it. I was like, let's go. Like, I'll get to be around her more and, like, maybe get to know her. At that point, I knew I had some interest in her.
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to play it slow because like, I had been girl crazy before. So I was like, I need to be chill about this, just like Cody said. So anyway, we show up to leave for the day of Beach Reach, and I'm looking around, and she's not there. I'm like, where is she? So I was really disappointed. And we were driving there, and I remember there in the first worship set of Beach Reach, I just was praying to God. I was like, I do not want to spend all week like thinking about this girl. This is not why I came here. Like, I want to serve you. And I didn't think about her the whole week. Mm-hmm. Like, the Lord answered my prayer. But then the second we got on campus, I was thinking about her again. I was like, oh no, this is not good. So I sought some counsel. I talked to a few of my friends, and then I talked to one of her friends. Mm-hmm. I was like, do you think I should let her know? Like, do you see me being in a spot where dating makes sense? So I got the yes from all of them. It's good to have a breadth of wide counsel. So I did that. And then I kind of just went into it. I was like, I'm going to tell her that I like her, and she'll probably say she doesn't feel the same. Yep. And I'll just move on with my life. And then I told her, and she reciprocated, and I was like, oh, okay. So I guess we should go on some dates or something. Yeah. So we went on a few dates, and funny enough, Brian Wiles actually showed up to our first date. It was not planned, but no, we had a good first date, and by that point, like, we dated for about 6 months, and then we decided, like, do we want to see this move forward, like, go anywhere else? So we decided we wanted to get engaged. And we actually got engaged at Beach Reach the next year.
Oh my gosh.
Which is kind of funny.
Full circle.
Yeah, things come full circle like that. So we dated for 10 months, then we were engaged for 10 months, and we got married in January of 2019. And then I came on staff in August of that year. Mm-hmm. So I was still finishing grad school when we got married. And then COVID hit that next spring. So I was raising support to come on staff. COVID hit. And that's kind of how our marriage started off. It was like a pretty weird circumstances where I was in one of the harder seasons of my life, finishing grad school, then right into COVID. So there was good to that and hard to that too. But praise the Lord how we met and just got to be friends for a long time before we ever dated. Yeah. And got to honor the Lord through that, which is awesome. So my wife's great. She still serves on the worship team. She still helps with events. And she's a blessing to our college students for sure. She leads a huddle too. So it's great to have a wife who's excited about what we're already doing. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the babies, how did they come into play?
Yeah. So before we got married, we both knew we wanted a family. Like, we wanted to grow a family. So we had decided we were going to wait 5 years since we were kind of young when we got married. Mm-hmm. Let's see, what was I? I was only I was turning 23 or 24 that year. So I was like, I could see like most of our 20s, like, let's just figure out how to be married.
Right.
But it was about 2.5 years in, my wife was like, I think I want kids. And I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. So we talked about it, we prayed over it, and then we decided that we were going to start trying, and it happened really quick. Mm-hmm. So we had Margaret, who's our first one. We had her just about 2 years ago. So she turns 2 in February. Mm-hmm. And then we knew we wanted to wait a little bit of time, have a little gap. And then again, when we decided to try again, it happened really quick. Mm-hmm. We had Jocelyn, who is only 17 months younger than her. So we have 2 kids. We'll probably have more. We're hopefully going to wait a little bit longer for more kids, but they're such a blessing. Like, I always tell people this is weird, but I always knew I was going to have a daughter. Like, I just knew. It was never even a question. Yeah. And so when Margaret came, like, it wasn't even like a surprise. Like, I knew this was going to be a girl. Like, the Lord has been prepping me for this. I love having girls. They're fun. I'm sure I'd love having a boy too. Like, people always ask, like, what do you want? I was like, I really don't care. Like, I'm going to love my kids regardless.
It's 50-50 anyway. So.
Yeah. Like, there's no failure here. Like,
Right. That's awesome though. I love that. And then as far as joining staff and becoming a director and a pastor in training, how's that looked for you?
Yeah. So Joe Gallagher was my huddle leader. And he had been recruiting me to staff because I was a group leader. Our groups were really growing. Like, I was kind of a rogue group leader, to be honest. Like, I was trying new stuff all the time. I was doing different types of outreach. And I think it was my senior year, maybe my first year of grad school, our group was over 50 people, like, every night. We even split our group. Like, we sent half our leaders to go start a new group, and we still stayed, like, big.
Wow.
So like we saw a lot of success. So we were like, I was getting recruited to help with groups and just like kind of not even rethinking about how we do groups because we've been doing them the same way for 30, 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But even just the way that we raise up leaders and how we do that, I was helping with that. So like I had a knack for raising up leaders, and obviously the staff saw that and wanted me to help with it.
Yeah.
So I became like a pseudo intern. I had never had an official role, but I helped out Joe with some group stuff while I was in grad school. And then I think it was one of those summers, Brian Wiles asked me if I'd want to intern as an H2O youth leader. We had no youth group at all, but we had a little pocket of like, maybe it was like 6 to 10 teenagers. And it was like, we should probably do something with these kids. So Brian really wanted to put something together. Mm-hmm. So I served for a summer doing that. And I realized pretty quickly, like, I love ministry. I don't love youth ministry. Like I coach high schoolers and that's fun, but I enjoyed that time, but it was pretty clear, like I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so that was actually helpful in figuring out like if I wanted to come on staff. But obviously like we raised support as part of our job. So that was one hurdle as I was thinking about where to go on staff, because I could have gone on staff with my dad's church and the Nazarene denomination. But I wanted to work with college students. And then once it really hit me, like as I was thinking about my life and the hard things that God asks us to do, and I was praying one day and God was just like, if raising support is the hardest thing I ask you to do in life, will you do it? And I was like, yeah, like I would do that. Yeah, if this is the hardest thing the Lord's gonna, and no guarantee that it is. Right, I might experience harder things in life, but I was like, if this is what He's asking me to lay down on my life, I'm gonna do that. So once I got over that hurdle, and to be honest, when I was in grad school too, like I didn't have the best experience when I was in my internship for school counseling. And I just realized the limitations of like how much I was allowed to talk about God in the context I was. And I was like, I'd rather have no hoops to jump through. Like I just want to talk to people about Jesus. So it was a pretty easy decision. Once I graduated, I went right to staff training. And then coming on staff, like I initially was just like boots on the ground, like I'm spending 30 hours a week with guys, helping put on groups, and really it was COVID lockdown. So like I was trying whatever I could to connect students, because at the time, students who were living on campus were alone in their rooms. Like nobody had a roommate. And so that was really challenging. We eventually decided we were going to run a bunch of events here at the DTV. And it was a blessing at the time because students had nowhere else to go. Yeah. My life group that year, we had about 30 regular attenders. And what was funny was half of them would tell you like they were pursuing Jesus or trying to figure it out. The other half were like, there's nothing to do on campus, so that's why I'm here. Like, they just were like, if that means reading the Bible a little bit, like, why not? Like, so it was kind of cool. It was really evangelistic, and that really kicked off like our pancake ministry, which has been a thing for years. We've done that for a long time, but it's really taken off because we didn't have much else that we could do, but we could make pancakes and take them down to the bars. Yep. So that's what my life looked like the first 2 years that I was on staff, was just a lot of late nights doing evangelism, groups, and just meeting up with guys, which was really fun. But then as I've grown in my influence and leadership, I got more roles, which was organizing some of our group stuff, getting to really be the head of that and coordinating it, and then getting to lead Blitz too. Like I got handed that one pretty quick. So I took 3 years and like was really working out the kinks of like how to do this well. And for those of you that don't know, Blitz is when we hand out water bottles on campus and we do a bunch of events to really connect with students their first week on campus. So it's fun. And as I've done all that, like I knew from day one that the Lord wanted me to pursue pastoral ministry. Yeah. So I've gotten to walk alongside a lot of awesome men who have served as pastors in our church in different capacities in different ways with different giftings. So I've learned a ton in the last 6 years just from walking alongside those guys. And so, I'm just I'm trying to do the work of a pastor, and eventually I'll get hands laid on me, and we'll get to make that official, which will be fun.
Can't wait. That'll be very exciting.
Oh yeah.
And I met you when you were you just, how long have you been doing pastoral training?
Yeah, so Pitt was like a men's group when I was in college too.
Oh, okay.
We did book studies every once in a while. It's looked different over the years. Yeah. It changed a lot during COVID. Yeah. So I really have been in Pitt since 2017. I think.
Gosh, okay. So
holy crap. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. Yeah, so I was in the middle somewhere whenever I started coming around in 21. But then I was there whenever Kent Ramsey was ordained to finally become a pastor, and then of course now Tom Gerbrick. But it'd be really cool to see how far you've come just from 2021, helping lead baptisms and stuff, and going from there, and then going up and preaching on Sundays every once in a while too. It was really cool to see how everyone who I talk to loves your teachings, loves your sermons.
I appreciate
that. It's not a secret. Everyone talks about like, oh, I just love Jadon's, influence. I love his sermons, the way he just like talks about stuff. I learned a lot from you too. It's been really fruitful to have you as a pastor in training and to hear from you and hear your story and everything too, because a lot of your story, sexual harassment or touches place in me too. So I'm sure a lot of viewers and listeners would be able to experience that too. So
much more common than I ever realized.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, it is very common. But yeah, it's been fun. We talk about movies all the time. That's great.
I love movies.
Yeah, Letterboxd. If you guys don't have the app, please get it. It is a really cool app.
It's fantastic.
Although some of his, some of your reviews are a little sketch. They're like, I don't know if I agree with that, but it's whatever.
I don't always agree with the majority.
No, you don't.
I've got a specific taste.
You do. Which, respect. You need to stick with that. But yeah, it's been cool to get to know you over the past few years. And
I still remember a moment when I was doing a union table, and it was maybe the second or third time we had ever talked that you came up. And I was like, this dude's like really excited about life. Like he really loves what's going on.
Yeah, thank you.
So it was cool to see. I love meeting students who are just really excited about the Lord and like just like are like, whatever I can do, like tap me in.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's cool. All right, so now we're going to go into his topic for today, which is hobbies and how to love God through hobbies.
Yeah. So to frame that in, when I first started following the Lord, I did a lot of stuff, like I said, like I stayed busy. Just to tell you some of the stuff I like to do, I love going to the movie theater. It's one of my favorite things to do. I did that with my dad when I was a kid, and it's just a blast. I love basketball. I love both playing basketball and coaching basketball. I love Pokemon. I grew up with it. It's just something I love to do. And there's probably more that I could share about too. But those would be like three main things that I'm really into. So when I started following Jesus, I kind of had I looked at every area of my life and was like, is this glorifying to the Lord? Is this something I should keep doing or not do? And at the time I was coaching basketball. I was coaching middle school. And I don't know, I had like a crisis of life. I was like, should I keep doing this? Like, is this good? And as I was looking at it, I was just thinking, like, how can I glorify the Lord through being a part of this? Or is this something I need to purge from my life? Because there were things I needed to purge from my life, like the partying on weekends, that had to go. Drinking alcohol underage, that had to go. So there were things that I did that needed to go. So I was really looking at everything. And I realized, I was like, wow, there's a lot of ways I can glorify God as a coach. Like how I talk to players, how I interact with officials, how I interact with parents, how I carry myself. Every once in a while, there's a teaching moment. I just had one the other night with our guys, like where I'll read a proverb out loud. There's stuff that applies from scripture to basketball, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so I realized, like, I can glorify the Lord in this. Like, I really wanted to give my time to serving God, like everything I do. And so you might be wondering, like, okay, what about movies? Like, how does just watching movies glorify the Lord?
Oh, I know.
And now, like, since becoming a Christian, watching movies, like, I think about God when I watch movies. It's really strange to think about, but there's a lot of the best stories in the world come from Scripture.
Yep.
The best themes, the best conflicts, the best everything comes from Scripture. And so I don't know if there's a podcast or if it was just a video I watched, but it was called like Stealing from the Bible. And it talked about how movies like were really directly related to it. And I think Frank Turek has a book about this too, about movies and the Bible. And like Harry Potter is a great example. Like Harry Potter is really like a Jesus figure in there where he sacrifices himself for his friends. And so I think about that when I'm watching movies. Like, how does this make me think about the Lord? And I've had so many good conversations with students and guys in my life where we go watch a movie. Then on the way home, we're talking about the movie, like, what'd you like about it? What'd you think about it? But then those conversations turn spiritual more often than not. Like, yeah, well, how does this make us think about God? Like, or even like the character of the lead, like, how did he embody like what it looks like to be a man or to be a godly man or anything like that?
Yeah.
Or even just talking about where's the gaps in movies. Like, what is this movie missing? Some movies are like really close to getting the gospel, but then totally miss it. So I don't know. That just is really interesting for me. I've also I love film. Like, I love the way movies are made. I was really into making videos when I was in high school. Yeah. So I love the craft of it too. Mm-hmm. I do it less so now, but I still am interested in it. Mm-hmm. And so that was another thing I looked at, like, do I need to stop watching types of movies? And some movies, yes. I stopped watching some types of movies. But I can still watch regular dramas, even some horror movies, and learn something about the Lord.
Yeah.
And quick thing about horror movies, some people just avoid it altogether. The one thing about horror movies is they always paint sin correctly.
Oh, shoot.
I know that sounds weird, but like they always note like demons are bad.
Yeah.
These people hurting people, bad.
Right.
Like, it's always obvious like who's the bad guy in a horror movie, which I appreciate. Like, I grew up like really being more of a realist. If you've ever read A Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket, like that shaped a lot of my taste. Like, I love the real, like give me the raw stuff. So that's where movies come in. And then Pokemon too, that's a funny one, because when I was growing up during the Pokemon craze, there were some churches that were like, this is demonic.
Oh, yeah.
Stay away from this.
Yeah.
It's about evolution.
Right.
But no, it's just it's a fun game. Mm-hmm. And my parents let me do it, so which was fun. But today, like, how I apply that to like, how does that glorify the Lord at all? It's funny that like there's a whole community of people at BGSU's campus that love Pokemon. There's a club. There's a Pokemon club. And so I can connect with students that way by opening up some packs together. There's students in my life who, like, the thing that disarmed them, that like helped them open up, was us playing Pokemon together or us opening packs of cards together. And so it's one of those things, like, I don't do it a whole lot, like, but it's something that's fun. I love the movies of Pokemon too. Like, it's a blast. And so I think about that a lot. Like, when I think about our hobbies, like hobbies can be things that we just do for entertainment. They can be things that make us money. But ultimately, like, the question I like to ask is like, how are you glorifying the Lord in your hobbies? Not to like put pressure on it, but like, how can you even leverage your hobbies for the gospel? How can you make them something that can help you reach people? Yeah. And so as I've thought about that, like, I've really tried to apply it to my life. How can I bring people into these spaces of my life that I enjoy and talk about the Lord in them? Yeah. Which I know you like to do too.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, because I started out wanting to be a video game YouTuber, you know, like pure Markiplier. You know, I wanted to be the next Markiplier. And I quickly realized this isn't going anywhere. And then, of course, I was screwing around with my mom's iPad and just made a dumb video with my friend, and I ended up loving every bit of it. Then would do that for as long as I can remember. For probably 10 years, I would just make dumb videos to my friends and family and force them into it because they're friends and family.
Oh, yeah. I did the same.
Yeah. And then you look back and they're horrible. Like, in the moment, it was fun, and I was obviously hugely inspired by Star Wars, and I would watch how Star Wars was made, and I fell in love with the filmmaking process, like you said. And that quickly became like, okay, this hobby, now I'm going to school for it, and I saw immediately how this could easily glorify God in any way. Like, we're hoping to make something sometime soon with a bunch of H2O people. Me and Jadon hopefully will come up with something here soon. Oh yeah, you got a bunch of ideas, so that's great. I do. You're the inventor. So that would be something I could see easily glorifying God in anything that we do, is using our hobbies and talents that He's literally given us. I wouldn't have come here if it wasn't for my hobby and that talent. So I see where you apply that too. It's so funny to hear you say Pokemon too. I didn't know where you were gonna go with that. I was actually very curious. Like, movies, yes. Pokemon, I didn't know about that one.
There's a whole lot of people that love it.
Yeah.
And one I didn't even mention yet, like, I made music in high school too.
Oh yeah.
So I can tell the whole story of that just a little bit. So when I was in high school, we had a guy who started making rap music, and I was a kind of a jerk in high school, so I made fun of this guy. I was like, this isn't good.
Yeah.
And somebody said to my face, like, I bet you couldn't do better. And I was like, I know for a fact that I could do better music than that. So I made a song and obviously put it out on the internet, showed all my friends. And at that time, I was addicted to attention, let's be real. So I got a lot of attention for it. So I was like, I'm going to do more of this. So after I made like 6, 7 songs, I found out I really enjoyed it. Like, I really like writing. And then really the vocals part of it, like actually doing the rapping, was here or there. I really liked writing more than anything. So I kept doing that. Excuse me. And I got my friends into it too. So we were all making music. Back then it was more raunchy and not good stuff. So as I did that through college too, like I just kept doing it. After I got saved, I had a crisis of life with that too. I was like, all of my music is horrible. It's explicit. It's not good. It does not glorify God at all. So I actually quit. Like I quit making music when I first gave my life to the Lord. And I was content with that. Like I wasn't upset about it. Like I was like, maybe that was a season of my life and I can leave it there. And it's a story I can tell about how I was dumb. But then I went to a fall retreat and Pardee was speaking the one night. And he was just talking about how the Lord opens our eyes when we get saved. He opens our eyes to the newness of life and how things can become new. And that didn't make me think about music right away. But then during the worship set, I was praying. And I really felt like the Lord was just saying, redeem the music.
Yeah.
And I was like, redeem the music. And that started jarring up an idea in my life. But I thought Christian rap music was really corny.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, I can't do that.
KJ52, you would listen to him?
No.
Yeah, he's a Christian rap.
I would listen to like Lecrae, Tripoli, like there's guys I listened to, but like I liked maybe a song here or there, but for the most part thought it was corny. So as I was ruminating on that, I eventually was like, okay, maybe I can like share theological ideas and my story in music in a not corny way. Yeah. And so that birthed the idea of releasing a mixtape called the Book of Jadon, which is like the whole point is like, here's my testimony in a mixtape. And so I was really like throwing stuff at the wall, trying to figure out like, how do you talk about God in music? And I put this project together. I was really proud of it. And I honestly thought this would be the one thing I was going to do. And then I was going to retire from it. So I made the mixtape, put it out. And like, I didn't have a huge audience or anything like that. Like I just made it. And then COVID happened. And so like I took a break from music, but realized like, I got nothing else to do. Yeah. So I started making music again and got way back into it. And since then I've put out, I think 5 albums. And the whole point is to point people back to Jesus while having some good music to bump to. Because when I got saved, I listened to a lot of raunchy and explicit rap music. And that had to be replaced. Like I couldn't just keep listening to the same stuff I was listening to. And so I was like, what better way than to just make music that I do like? Yep. So I was picking the beats that I enjoyed hearing. I was putting my own rap lyrics on them and putting it out there. And then as it evolved, like I started getting to make music with people. And so I've had students who are into music creation. And so we've made music together. And who would have thought the rap music that started off as this joke, that's raunchy, explicit joke, would become a discipleship tool in my life. Yeah. Where we can sit and we can write music, make it, record it, but then talk about our walks with the Lord afterwards. And so, again, it all comes back to like, I want my whole life to glorify God. I want all of it, Him to be in every angle of it. So the music is just one more of those things. Yeah.
And where can we find Vibe Jadon at?
Yeah, so my music, if you want to find the Book of Jadon, that one's harder to find. That's on SoundCloud. Okay. Good luck finding it. But yeah, if you look up Vibe Jadon, I'm on all streaming platforms. You can listen to my albums, or if you feel led, you can buy it and support the music. Heck yeah. So I might have some new stuff coming out this year. Since I've had kids, it's been harder to get in the studio. And honestly, I've been more into like writing other things than music recently. Yeah. So again, there's another hobby for you. Yep. I've just been into writing, and maybe I'm going to write a book or something.
Oh shoot! That's cool.
At some point, we'll see. I don't know.
Okay. And what else do you have going on today?
Oh, today, yeah. So I coach basketball, like I said. Like I have a game tonight. So we're in the middle of a basketball season, and I love my guys. They're fun. It's just, we have a lot of kids from our church, actually, who are on the basketball team, which is really fun. So it's a good touch point with the community. This year I'm writing at least a blog every month. So I've been trying to figure out like, where's the Lord leading me with that? Like I've just been throwing stuff at the wall. I'm a real like trial and error kind of guy. Like I'm going to try stuff, and then if it's not working out or if it doesn't make sense, that's usually how I find like where the Lord's leading me is like I might have to fail a few times, and I'm okay with that. Like I will live with that. And I'm going to keep watching movies. Like I'm going to keep watching movies this year. And like Zachariah already mentioned, we're going to do a little film project this semester, so I'm excited to make one.
Yes.
I have not been in the director's seat for a minute. So I will be getting back in the director's seat.
It's very exciting. Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, and I just appreciate you and appreciate everything you've done in my life, and I'm sure a lot of these people can relate to that too. Just very appreciative for who you are, and can't wait to see you be ordained one day. That would be fantastic.
And I love that you're doing this. Podcasts are fun.
So. Yeah, of course. I love it. It's been really cool. So, yeah, if you could pray us out, we'll end it.
Yeah, let's pray.
Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the time that we've had just to talk about you, or to talk about the ways that you've impacted my life. And God, as people are listening to this, Lord, I pray that as we think about our hobbies and the things that we enjoy to do, like, Lord, that we would think about how we could bring people into that and glorify you, Lord. And so whether that means to purge some hobbies, purge some things, or to start new ones, or already take things that we love and to use them for your kingdom, Lord, I just pray that we would be in a kingdom mindset of how can we build your kingdom, Lord. So lead us in that. We love you so much. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thanks so much, man.
Yep.
Appreciate it. And God bless you all. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Cool. Awesome.
Sick.
Love it.